The CalMac Ferries debacle has been in the news again over recent days. If you're not up to speed in the story, perhaps you're from Wales or England and not up to speed with Scottish news, then basically, in 2015 the Scottish Government awarded a contract for 2 CalMac ferries to go into production at Ferguson Marine Shipyard. In 2019, the Ferguson shipyard was nationalised after entering administration in a bid to avoid the ferries being written off and to save jobs. The ferries are now scheduled for completion in 2023, running £150 million over budget with an overall cost of £250 million. I think they're also meant to be 5 years late. So hopefully that's brought everyone up to speed on what I'm actually going to be talking about today. So the SNP have had a hit and miss record over the past 15 years for sure. And this is one of the go-to areas for the opposition parties to target. And to be fair, rightly so. The contract should probably not have been awarded in the first place, and this is according to Ferguson's former owner, Jim McCall. He claimed that Sturgeon and the then Finance Secretary, Derek Dances with Teenage Boys Mackay, went against CalMac's advice so that the announcement could be made for quote-unquote political purposes. Whether his accusation is true or not is really irrelevant. But one thing is for sure, nothing ever good comes from politicians dismissing the advice of experts. In my opinion, they were wrong to award the contract and were also wrong to bring it into public hands in order to save their investment and what is essentially a dying industry in this country. This may be an unpopular opinion, especially for those suffering with a big case of, nostalgia, but Scotland is no longer an industrial powerhouse. The mining industry fell, the steel industry fell, and let's be honest, so has shipbuilding. We no longer have the resources, financial and human, to compete with other nations. So if the decision was mine in 2019, I would have cut my losses, revoked the contract and started again with another shipyard, probably abroad. Yes, there would have been a big financial loss with nothing to show for it. And sadly, workers would have lost their jobs. But now at 2.5 times over budget, the Scottish Government could have started again and saved taxpayers' money and probably still have delivered the ferries quicker than they're going to. So fast forward to today, and the Scottish Government is pot committed now and really has to see the contract through. So who's to blame? Football referee posing as a politician, Douglas Ross, insinuated that Sturgeon was trying to pass the blame off on our disgraced former Finance Secretary, completely overlooking the fact that 5 minutes earlier he asked which of his ministers gave the green light for the ferry contract, to which he said, Derek Mackay. Yeah, it doesn't quite work like that when you ask the question, mate. You ask a question about what minister made the call, expect to get an answer of what minister made the call. She went on to say that the Scottish Government operates by collective responsibility, and that ultimately the buck stops with her. Now, whether the Scottish Government learns from this mistake is another matter, but I'm far more forgiving of people when they admit fault and take responsibility. Boris Johnson, take note. £250 million does sound like a lot for 2 ferries, but let's put that into perspective, shall we? The Conservative government in Westminster will be blowing £125 million on their Brexit festival later this year, which produces nothing of worth other than a celebration of the UK imposing trade sanctions on itself. Or how about £140 million on a royal yacht that benefits not one single member of the public, only a bunch of overpaid aristocrats and politicians? Or how about the estimated £100 billion spent on the high-speed rail line, which is both scaled down from its initial plan and years late? Yes, I am engaging in a bit of whataboutery here, but much like the CalMac ferry disaster, all of these are examples of money that doesn't need to be spent. As a tight-fisted Scot, all of the above offend me equally. And that's my political rant for today. Go ahead and leave some comments, and also subscribe and hear what I've got to say next.